In this video, we're going to download and install and configure Intellij IDEA, which is the Integrated Development Environment, or IDE, that we're going to be using to write our Java programs. Now, this video is for the Windows platform. There's also a version for a Mac or for a Linux machine, so refer to those videos as appropriate. But if you're on Windows, start by going to jetbrains.com in a browser. And once that gets to that page, come down here and click on Tools. Then move over here, we'll click OK to that. And we want this Intellij IDEA. So I'm going to click on Download on the Intellij IDEA image there. And then I'll bring up this page. And when you go to download Intellij IDEA, you've got two options here. You can choose the Ultimate or the Community Edition. Now firstly, you can see the differences shown here. I won't go into those now because most of those won't make any difference to you at this point if you're just starting out with Java. So the Community Edition over here on the right hand side, well, that's the free open source version. So you'll never need to pay, and that's the version that I'm going to install now, download and install now. I'm just going to click on that and start the download. Then we'll just talk briefly about the Ultimate Edition. I'm just going to click back to go to that previous page. Now, the other thing you can do is you can download the Ultimate Edition, and that's got extra tools and capabilities. You get a free trial, however, you will need to pay for that after the trial finishes. So for most people, you probably want to download and use the Community Edition. But what JetBrains have done is they've given me the ability to extend your trial. So if you want to try out this Ultimate Edition, normally you get a 30-day trial. I can give you an extra 90 days, bringing the total trial period to 120 days. So if you want to do that, download the Ultimate Edition, then look for the information in this section of the course where I can show you how to go about getting a key to extend that to 120 days. But that's optional, and as I said, the Community Edition will work just fine in this course. Alright, so I'm just going to fast forward now and let the rest of the Intellij download complete, and then we'll go through the installation and configuration. Okay, so you can see the download is now complete. So if I start now the program that I've downloaded, that's going to go ahead now and install Intellij Community Edition onto my computer. I'm going to close down the browser now. We'll just go through now this wizard to set it up. I'm going to click on Next. I'm going to click on Next to use the default destination folder. Now this screen that's popped up is very important. Firstly, if you're running a 32-bit version of Windows, and if you don't know whether you're running a 32-bit version, refer to the JDK installation video in this section of the course because I'll show you how to get access to that. But if you are running a 32-bit version, and most people probably won't be doing that, but if you are, click on 32-bit launcher and then click on download and install JRE x86 by JetBrains. Very important that you do that because you'll find that Intellij won't work unless you do that. But that's if you're running a 32-bit version. Most people will be running a 64-bit version of Windows, so that's the case, select 64-bit launcher, and that's all you'll need to do if you are running a 64-bit version. In both cases, whether you're running 32 or 64-bit, I suggest you click on the three options here, Java, Groovy and Kotlin, KT. That just gives you the ability to open files of that type in Intellij. So click on Next now, click on Install. So obviously that's now going through the process of installing Intellij on this computer. Now once that installation is finished, there's a few other things we need to do. Firstly, we need to configure the Java Development Kit so that it actually works within Intellij. So we need to associate the JDK we downloaded previously, so that happens. Then we need to configure and tweak a few settings within Intellij just to make things a little bit easier for you to use for Java development. And once we've done that, we can then move on and start working in Intellij and creating Java programs. So I'm going to pause the video here now and we'll come back when this installation process has completed. Okay, so installation is now completed. We now want to run Intellij IDEA Community Edition, so I'm going to check that box and click on Finish. Once you've started Intellij, you'll get this option. You can either click on the option Custom Location to import some settings from a previous installation of Intellij IDEA, or you can click on Do Not Import Settings. In most cases, Do Not Import Settings would be the right option, and you can see that's the default. I'm just going to click on OK, because I don't want to import any settings from a previous installation. You then get this option about data sharing. I'm going to click on Don't Send because I don't want to send any data to JetBrains. but you can click on Send Usage Statistics if you like. Now, depending where you are, if you're in the UK or one of the European countries that are affected by the recent changes to data privacy, you may also get a privacy pop-up which you'll need to agree to before continuing. But because I'm in Australia, I'm not affected by that and I didn't get that option. Next, you'll get access to this screen. This is a series of customizations now for Intellij. Now, keep in mind with all of these things that you can configure these at a later time. You don't need to spend a lot of time thinking about this. And usually you'll see on the screen there's an option that tells you how to get access to these things to change in the future. This one's the background. I'm going to click on Intellij. This is white background, which tends to be better for video, but you can choose either. Click on Next. Now, this screen gives you a list of default plugins for Intellij. One thing you'll find with Intellij, it's very versatile and there's lots of different plugins that you can install to add various functionality. What I suggest here is you just leave everything as the default, noting that you can change this again in the future. And one other note to keep in mind here is if you're installing the Ultimate Edition of Intellij, you'll find that there's more options on this screen. But in both cases, I just recommend you click on Next. Same deal on this screen. You can install these things if you want to, but I suggest you leave them and you can always come back later to do that. So I'm going to click on Start now using Intellij IDEA. So we've now loaded Intellij for the first time. Next thing we want to do now is we want to associate the Java development kit that we installed in the previous video. So I'm going to come down here and click on Configure, click on Project Defaults, and click on Project Structure. This gives us a screen here and we need to now define or select the software development kit that we want to use. So you may need to click on SDKs over here, but usually from project, we'll be able to do the same thing. So we'll just click on this little drop down. We can confirm that there's no SDK or software development kit installed. So I'm going to click on New. I'm going to select JDK because we want to install a new Java development kit, or at least set it up. Then we need to navigate to the folder where the JDK was installed. You remember that I discussed that in the last video and showed you where that was. In most cases, that'll be in the C drive, Program Files, noting that I'm not selecting Program Files x86, that's a different folder altogether, Java, and JDK. So I'm going to select a JDK. Now, depending on the version you've downloaded, the numbers will change. You can see here that I've got an older version here, Java 8. 1.8 means Java version 8. That would be a situation, that would be the one you'd choose if you had a 32-bit version of Windows. But in my case, I had a 64-bit version of Windows running, and I'm going to just click on this first option here for JDK, making sure that it's the latest version that is available in this folder. One other thing, make sure you don't click the JRE. JRE stands for Runtime Edition, Java Runtime Edition. JDK is Java Development Kit. You need to click on the Java Development Kit, click on OK. And you can see now that we've got a configuration here, whereas before it said no JDK, we've now got Java 10 showing. The other thing is just to make sure you select the right version here, the project level. It's normally auto-selected for you. In my case, you can see it's set to 10, and that means that we're going to be using the features of Java 10. If you had to install a JDK 8, you would select version 8. But in my case, version 10 is correct, so I'm going to click on OK. So we've now configured the Java Development Kit. There's just a few other settings to configure that I recommend you set. And to get access to those, we're going to click on Configure and select Settings. Once that pops up, we want to come down to Editor, click on the little triangle there to expand it, then come down to General and click that as well, and then click on Auto Import. Two very useful checkboxes to check here would be the Add Unambiguous Imports on the Fly and Optimize Imports on the Fly for current project. I suggest you configure both of those or select both of those. Come down to Appearance. I suggest you click on or make sure that the Show Line Numbers checkbox is checked. In this case, you can see that it is checked and I don't need to do anything there. And finally, come down here to Code Folding. And what I recommend you do here is I recommend you take off the checkboxes for closures and for generic constructor and method parameters. And the reason will become apparent as we go through the course. It just makes sure that the code that we're writing isn't being hidden away by Intellij. All right, so click on OK. And that will save those changes in your configuration, and it means that all future projects that you create within Intellij will use those settings. Alright, so at this point we're done. We've now configured Intellij IDEA and you're ready to move on now to the next video.